Antiperspirants, shaving and cleansing solutions from Gillette, Ambi, Olay, or Aveeno for eczema. For total oral care, air freshness to Febreze your atmosphere. Jigjo di Jolika, Stilvan, Mukro, Chrome, Epsom salt, ever MB powder.
Jolly's Pharmacy presents a new and innovative radio program, Health Vibes. Health Vibes. Every Wednesday morning on Q95 FM. Health Vibes, hosted by Carlton Lando and Pearl Fontaine Butler. Health Vibes from 10:15 to 11 a.m. It's not just your average talk show. It's appealing and educational with a bit of humor. Real vibes on your health. Now, that's the vibe. Health Vibes on Q95. Every Wednesday from 10:15 to 11 a.m. with Pearl.
Good production.
Can I have a moment of your time? I would like to know your name. Kimani, that is mine. Where you've been hiding all my life. I can't believe the beauty standing right in front of my eyes. Girl, you rule my heart. 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 You're a rare and special kind. And I would do anything in the world to make you mine.
Are you aware that Jolly's Pharmacy is more than just a pharmacy? Lout and Moon got the Jolly and he plenty one ma ever took back eyes. Sase lave with Look at the wide variety of household and personal hygiene products and laundry items. Ask for hair care products from relaxers, texturizers and tints. Look how good you look now. From dark and lovely Garnier Fructis to Sesame Blue and the pill 7 color too. At Jolly's, all your baby needs are right here because your little precious bundle of joy is precious to us too. In Dominica, we have the Isle of Beauty. At Jolly's, we have aisles of splendorous beauty supplies to match your complexion to perfection. Ladies, when your monthly visitor comes knocking, Jolly's have a fresh feminine protection so you can stay free with confidence. Antiperspirants, shaving and cleansing solutions from Gillette, Ambi, Olay, or Aveeno for eczema. For total oral care, air freshness to Febreze your atmosphere. Jigjo di Jolika, Stilvan, Mukro, Chrome, Epsom salt, ever MB powder.
Jolly's Pharmacy presents a new and innovative radio program, Health Vibes. Health Vibes. Every Wednesday morning on Q95 FM. Health Vibes, hosted by Carlton Lando and Pearl Fontaine Butler. Health Vibes from 10:15 to 11 a.m. It's not just your average talk show. It's appealing and educational with a bit of humor. Real vibes on your health. Now, that's the vibe. Health Vibes on Q95. Every Wednesday from 10:15 to 11 a.m. with Pearl and Carlton. Tune in. Tune in.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website, www.jollys.dm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollys.dm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle-free shopping, safe and secure. Jollys.dm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut-off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollys.dm. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare. In healthcare.
Welcome to Health Vibes, Dominica's most foremost program on health, medicine, nutrition, and wellness, featuring the latest news on conventional and alternative medicine and health care. Now, here's your host, Carlton Lando, and co-host, Pearl Fontaine.
Dominica, we are so excited to be again connected with you on another episode of Health Vibes, your very own health talk show brought to you by the brand you trust the most, Jolly's Pharmacy. Today we will be having a very interactive show, as we'll be focusing on, the advent of Creole Music Festival. It's a very festive and frolic time on Dominica, and everyone seems to be feeling the buzz of the pulsing music that usually comes with the Creole season, all the foods and the likes. And so we'll be discussing some of the things that we need to remember, we need to adhere to, and we need to, at the same time, be cautious about. So today we will be discussing matters relating to sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV/AIDS, and we'll also be discussing matters relating to drug abuse. And so we're going to make the show a bit very interactive. Do feel free to connect with us online. I must say to you that my co-host isn't in today, as she's away on assignment, so Pearl won't be in today, and I want to say good morning to Pearl wherever you are at this time. You might be listening or you might be very busy at this time. We want to say that we truly miss you. So the numbers to call are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. If you are calling from overseas, you can join us at this number, 305-432-9625. Again, you can also join us on the website, and that is http at qfmradio.com. And so you can always connect with us and listen to us. We know that many people listen throughout the Caribbean and the world by extension. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to get right into the discussion.
Yeah, the John's Pharmacy is more than just a pharmacy. Lout and Moon got the jolly and he plenty one ma ever took back I sase la verite. Look at the wide variety of household and personal hygiene products and laundry items. Ask for hair care products from relaxers, texturizers and tints. Look how good you look now. From dark and lovely Garnier Fructis to Sensum Blue and the pill 7 color too. At Jolly's, all your baby needs are right here, because your little precious bundle of joy is precious to us too. In Dominica, we have the Isle of Beauty. At Jolly's, we have aisles of splendorous beauty supplies to match your complexion to perfection. Ladies, when your monthly visitor comes knocking, Jolly's have a fresh feminine protection so you can stay free with confidence. Antiperspirants, shaving and cleansing solutions from Gillette, Ambi, Olay or Aveeno for eczema. For total oral care, air fresheners to Febreze your atmosphere. Jigjo di Jolly Castile Van Mukro Chrome, Epsom Salt Ever MB powder.
Right, so we're back with you. As I said to you, it's a very interactive show today, as our focus will be on the Creole Music Festival. What we should know, what we should do to protect ourselves against sexually transmitted diseases, against the abuse of drugs and alcohol. It's a time that is really important to the Dominican public. Our government spends thousands of dollars, towards independence. I think we have the most elaborate independence celebration in the Caribbean, maybe by extension the world. And we all, really, really, truly endorse our culture and, truly feel happy to be Dominicans. But we know that during that season, many things that are not so desirable do happen and can definitely have an impact on our overall health profiles of Dominica and even our own personal health profiles. And so this morning we'll be discussing some of those issues. So we have this morning Mr. Malcolm St. Rose, who is representing the National Drug Abuse Prevention Unit as an officer there. And before we actually, introduce Malcolm, I'm just going to read something that I actually picked up from DNO in 2011. In 2011, 445 people were admitted to the acute psychiatric unit of the Princess Margaret Hospital. 247 were treated for marijuana, alcohol, crack-related mental health problems. Therefore, more than 55% were admitted to the APU due to the abuse of drugs. Statistics have also shown about 60% of our males between the ages of 12 to 74 were abusing drugs and alcohol. The statistics is very alarming, as 55% is sort of a high percentage for such a small country that we have in so many people abusing alcohol and drugs. And we know that during the festive season, we see even a higher prevalence of such a practice. Malcolm, welcome to Health Vibes.
Thank you so much, Carlton. I can say Birdie, as I've known you at school. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's also very good to be in the company of the representative from the HIV unit, Nurse Glenville. So it's a pleasure to sit next to you and to share this moment with you and our respective departments. It shows the level of collaboration that goes on, in serving the Dominican public. And of course, Carlton, I take this opportunity to commend you highly for a job well done, and kudos to you and kudos to Jollies. And I must say I'm very proud of you as your classmate and friend for many years. So it's really a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Malcolm, so you've heard me just narrated or read the excerpt that came from DNO in 2011 in terms of the prevalence of alcohol use and misuse among our people in Dominica. How concerned is the unit on the statistics that we've just narrated, the 55%? And that was in 2011. In 2016, I suspect that may have actually climbed up. How concerned is the unit?
All right, to say with that we are very concerned is an understatement. I mean, the unit was established and mandated by the state to significantly reduce the demand for drugs on the island. So anybody taking drugs at any level, at any time, is of grave concern to us. And not just by virtue of the fact that they use, but it's the impact that it is having on the individuals, their families, and the society as a whole. So we are very, very, very concerned about this. And legacy figures are very telling. And so it really indicates to us that we still have a serious problem with drugs and alcohol. And it's something that, as you rightly said, we expect to see on the rise around the festive season. There are people who probably normally would not even drink in a normal setting in terms of an everyday kind of a thing. But they seem to come out of the woodwork during the festive season. They say, you know what, I'm going to have one. I've not had one in so long, or I have not had this or done that. And so people tend to be very compromised at that time of year. And that also is very concerning to us.
You've used the word drug, which is in the sense, for the purpose of this discussion, the common denominator there. Define or characterize to us or to our listeners what, by the unit, what's your definition of drug, and what are some of the drugs in terms of the classifications that falls within the mandate of this unit?
All right. So one of our classic definitions of drugs is any substance other than food or water, upon taken in, changes the way in which the mind and the rest of the body works. Okay, that's the classic definition. I go further to kind of characterize it. I would say this: a drug is a medicine. A drug is a medicine that has to be underscored, or any other substance which has a psychological effect when ingested or taken otherwise. And by psychological, we mean affecting the functions of the body or the organs of the body, and or the systems of the body, if you like. And we're saying taken otherwise, in being injected, being inhaled or snorted, as we call it, or being absorbed by a patch, say it is a nicotine patch or anything of that sort. We have seen over the years the emergence of like drugs in terms of, okay, we know, for example, the marijuana that we speak about, and that's why I'm mindful to say medicines, because a lot of people tend to think that by virtue of the fact that marijuana has medicinal properties, it does not qualify for a drug. So I was mindful to state that. So we've seen, of course, the alcohol that has been with us for so many years, and then the drugs that fall under the group of inhalants, like nail polish remover and glue and paint, and all of those things. We also think that people tend to even be more creative these days, because we have heard of synthesized drugs, where apart from being obtained in the local environment, people go into their labs and they concoct and put a thing together. As a chemist, you'd know. And then as long as it gives a high, they give it a name and it sells. And so all of these constitute drugs.
And I know that, the unit has, serious concerns with crack cocaine abuse.
Yes,
people
sir.
are now merging marijuana with crack.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's usually called, that combination is called.
Yeah, that is, if I'm correct, it's called a sprang.
A sprang.
Yes.
And I
that's
suspect, based on the statistics here, it would seem that many of the people who at the acute psychiatric unit, they may have gone through psychosis.
Yes.
As one of the major complications.
Yes, meaning being out of touch with reality. And drugs tend to do that. Even by definition, we said that it is a mind-altering substance. And when somebody is mentally ill, it is clear that they are sick in their head. And we've seen, for example, people being diagnosed. There's a direct diagnosis made as far as drugs are concerned. For example, when first of all, if you drink alcohol and there's a particular amount of blood alcohol content, say higher than 0.08 sometimes, or even higher than 0.056 blood alcohol content, then people get intoxicated, meaning alcohol poisoning. And because of that, then for any drug to affect anyone, it has to first get into your bloodstream and then, of course, be transported to your brain. Alcohol is a depressant drug. It depresses the central nervous system. Depression already is a state of mental illness. And we also see diagnoses like drug-induced or alcohol-induced psychosis. It means that when people tend to be intoxicated or are intoxicated, they tend sometimes to be out of touch with reality. They might be hallucinating or stuff like that. And so that is a classic example of being mentally ill. And we, of course, the only department we have to deal and treat with mentally ill patients is the acute psychiatric unit. You made mention of the sprang. From our experience in terms of what we gather from observation and having done interviews, oftentimes the first experience with crack or cocaine is a free one, and sometimes it's an unsuspecting one. So there's this, just to use an example, this young man who is probably getting introduced into smoking marijuana. Somebody gave him the myth that it is so good for him, it makes you smarter and all of that crap. And he gets introduced, but oftentimes, unsuspectingly, somebody places something in it to just get him hooked. So by the time he gets that, it makes him feel out of this world. And then, it's often too much for the body and, of course, the minds, especially the young and developing minds. And so they lose it, So, yeah, of course, these are some of the issues that concern us gravely. And even besides that, Carlton, they just comparing crack cocaine with cocaine powder. It is said that the high that somebody gets from cocaine will kick in about 15 minutes after usage. However, the high that somebody gets from crack kicks in about 15 seconds. So it's like instantaneous. And on top of that, it is also said, I don't have that personal experience, but based on all research and interaction and so on, interviews and stuff, that that high that one gets from crack cocaine, the crack itself, is equivalent, my friend,
to an orgasm.
Not one, to 1,000 orgasms.
I've heard that.
So you can imagine the sense of euphoria and the good feeling. So you see why some of these guys are not interested in women or anything else?
I mean, based on the transmitters in the brain, it's dopamine.
Right.
That's so the dopamine level
the excitement
gets
and
really out of the way, and then they expect to get that high again. But based on what you're saying, though, in terms of your own statistics, I mean, as an educator, as an officer in this unit, we've seen more and more of our young men are on the roads now as vagrants. Merely, most of them seem to have been victims of drug abuse in the past. How concerned is the unit with this prevalence? And then how do we get, particularly to our young men, to advise them that really and truly, because the evidence is right in front of us each day. We walk through Roseau and someone is begging us for something. People do the weirdest of things when they are under those substances. How do we, what are the statistics showing in terms of how many, what percentage of our young men seem to be gravitating towards that culture? And when they do get there, What type of programs do you have in place to actually even prevent this from happening?
Okay, good, nice question. Let me just hasten to say that whereas it is apparent that from time to time you see a new kid on the block in terms of a new face, a new young person going down that road, and which of course is something that we don't like to see. It is something that we wish would never happen. I just want to stress here that these guys are really in the minority. In other words, the majority of young men and women in this country are drug-free. The majority of young people in Dominica do not do drugs. They're not hooked on drugs. They're not. You understand what I'm saying?
That's
yeah. So when you see the few that you see, it is. My boss would often say one too many, and I totally agree. But we have sought to do a number of things to kind of mitigate and try to lessen that type of trend, or reduce that kind of trend in the country. So, for example, we conduct sessions and do interactions and empowering even when they are not yet born. So we do stuff with pregnant women at the various health districts and so on, upon request, or sometimes we just walk in. So that is one. We also target them, the youth, at the preschool level. So we have developed books of poetry and rhyme. We go to the preschools, we do sessions, we engage them. That is another thing that we do. We have also, as part of our school prevention program, we have a host of things that we do at the primary school level. Even while I'm on that, I can say quickly that for a number of years now, we have been observing Drug Awareness Week. That is the third week of November every year for a number of years now. And that is where the focus is really on the learning institutions, and we do a lot of things there by, first of all, getting the students to take ownership for the fight against drugs at their school. So at the school level, we have set up peer helpers program where we train them, we expose them to knowledge, and we get them to be responsible for anti-drug activities at the school. We give them competition. We'll have them engage in competitions where they get incentives. We do sessions with parents. So we come sometimes to address the PTAs, but not even that. Even when we do counseling, that even when there are issues with particular children, that we will do one-on-one with them, with their parents, and that kind of thing. Of course, at the community level, because one of the things, one of the reasons why people take drugs is, for example, they're idle, they have nothing to do, they sit on the wayside and stuff. So we try to engage them. We have Sports Against Drugs program, using sports as a viable alternative to drugs. We have gone the road of culture against drugs to the extent that we have already funded and produced CDs, get young people engaged. Even there was a time when we had some EU funds that we had identified people and worked with them to help promote employment. Get people gainfully employed, equip them with tools and materials that they could continue their craft, whether it's furniture making or whatever, so they could provide employment for the youth. Because of course, when it's always said that the idle mind and hand is the devil's workshop. And you tell me what you want, but I know that substance abuse and abuse, drugs in itself, is an agent of Satan, because the Bible declares that the enemy has come to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And sometimes we look for an ugly man with horns, but no, he'll present himself in the form of drugs, because we see the kind of decadence, the destruction in our society and to human life, that people just waste away and just non-functional. So you can see that clearly it is the work.
Let me ask you a question before we switch to Miss Glenville. For the school health program that you have, though, do you work with samples of those drugs so that children can actually see what they look like? Because here it is that you might be talking about marijuana or talking about crack cocaine, and this child doesn't know what it looks like, and so they by the block, they begin to congregate there. I've seen significant transformation where children, a young person will get to the block, their panties up for 2 days, 5 days, then you start seeing the pants sagging, then you start seeing the walk changing, and they just begin to change on you.
Yes.
So, do you bring some evidence and say, well, this is what marijuana truly looks like, this is what crack cocaine, do you all have the authority to exhibit those products, those types of...
Nice question. You will understand that some of these drugs are illegal, and because they're illegal, people can be charged for possession. And if you have a certain quantity, possession with intent to supply, no man is above the law. So we, as officers of the drug unit, if the law prohibits they have in possession a certain amount or a kind of drugs, then we're not able to take that to the school ourselves. But bearing this in mind, what we have done is we have collaborated with the drug squad of the police force. So often when we have activities targeting the school children, we work with them, and whether it's in a community or school, we get the drug squad now to come on scene and to display and this is one of the very interesting features of our what we call our drug exhibitions. The schools come in droves and they have so many questions for the police. They see, some of the drug paraphernalia, they see the guns, and not just that, but there's some very good officers who are able to express themselves, and not just express, but to share the experience of, intercepting and dealing with people at that level and giving the students a strong warning.
Excellent. So we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to switch back across to Nurse Glenville.
At Johnny's Pharmacy, your health and wellness is our passion. No wonder Johnny's Pharmacy provides the widest variety of the highest quality vitamin supplements and remedies for your lifestyle activity and nutritional needs. Take care of your body. Get the multivitamins advantage supply to enhance, promote, improve, repair, and revitalize your body. Johnny's for the complete line of preventative and curative health supplies and tonics. Rejuvenate with men's and women's one-a-day tablets. Boost concentration. Tricentrum Silver and omega-3s to build your immune and nervous system functions, strengthen your cardiovascular system, boost bone health. For stamina, get all your natural balanced megavites herbal supplements, men's daily formula for sexual energy and function, soap palmetto plus supplements to soothe joint pain. Feel like a dynamo, get up and go, catch back your mojo at Johnny's, Dominica's principal healthcare pharmacy. Why? Because you deserve more from a drugstore.
We're back with you again. The numbers to call are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. If you're calling from overseas, feel free to join us at 305-432-9624. So in the introduction, I did say that we're going to have the show, split into two. One focusing on drug abuse, the other one on sexual promiscuity and STIs. We know that during the festive season, we have, floodgates of people coming in. At that time, people meeting old friends, people meeting new friends, and, people are people, and so you meet someone that you find attractive at a party, and the attraction turns to something else, and you end up getting into bed or involving in something of a sexual nature. But before I talk to Nurse Glenville, I just want to read something that came out again from DNO in February of 2013. And that was an interview with the then coordinator of the National HIV and AIDS Response Unit, Nurse Julie Frampton. And she declared that over 70% of the 396 reported cases that were people who were affected with HIV/AIDS, they were men. So 70% of the demographics showed that the disease was affecting more men than women. And the age group most affected were within the age of 25 to 49. And those are the most affected age group, particularly among our men. Frampton noted that out of 20 of the new cases that were documented in 2012, 15 of which were males, and those males were within the age group of 30 and 50. And we're talking about our working population, the age group that is most productive and yet are afflicted with this disease. Nurse Glenville, you are attached to the National AIDS Response Unit. What are you seeing, and how concerned is the unit in terms of not just HIV but sexual health on a whole?
Okay. Good morning, Carlton, and good morning to Dominica. Good morning, Mr. Centros. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and we're talking about the festive season and with HIV. You mentioned 396, but as of December 2015, we have 448 persons. And we've seen every year that at least 12 new cases are coming up. And like you said before, most of our cases are men. And it's not, we've been on campaigns to talk about the other STIs, because one of the reasons is that if you have one STI, the possibility of having HIV increases. So you increase your risk of getting HIV if you have an STI. And a lot of times we are concerned about HIV, but we do not look at the other STIs, and many of them do not have any signs and symptoms. Wow. So, like Mr. Centrose said, if we say that we are very concerned, it is an understatement.
Yes,
we are extremely concerned about this, because if the numbers are increasing every year, many times the ones that you have several more in the community that you haven't seen as yet. So this is a major concern for the HIV.
And then when we talk about the STIs, we're just going to mention a few. You have herpes, you have syphilis, you have chlamydia, you have gonorrhea, you have human papilloma virus, you have trichomoniasis, you have hepatitis B, you have, which one? Did I miss out any? HIV, AIDS? Right.
Yes.
And so those are we do see, and I should speak as a pharmacist, we do see prescriptions coming at all our pharmacies, at our hospitals. We know that it's happening, that people are, there are people who are infected with those diseases, and even more so the fact that many people are will be coming across during the festive season. Many times we talk about sexual history. I don't know if you want to explain a little about what is sexual history. When you're assessing a patient and you find you want to find out the sexual history, because a lot of times people are not cognizant of that you meet a good looking boy, meet girl, boy looks attractive, girl looks attractive, you throw your nets to try to catch a fish, and the next thing you're in bed. And more people are, yes, it's true that people still use condoms, but there are many young people who are not liking condom usage. Yes. And so their chances are even higher too.
But also the fact that during the festive season, as we were just talking about drugs and alcohol, it increases. So a lot of persons are inebriated. They do not have, they are drunk, or they're high. So their inhibitions are lowered. Yeah. They go do things that you wouldn't normally do. So having sex without a condom and not finding out about a person's sexual history. In sexual history, we're talking about how many sexual partners they have, when was their last sexual encounter, whether they used protection during that encounter, also to find out whether they've been tested for any STIs, whether they've had any STIs. Many times you do not find people asking those questions. You meet somebody and what you're interested in is how good the person looks, and especially if you are high, you are not going to ask that question. So this increases our risk of having an STI by having unprotected sex with somebody that you do not know what their sexual history is about. And this is one of the things that we want to push during the festive seasons, to encourage persons to practice safer sex. Safer sex meaning use a condom every time, consistently and correctly, whenever you are having sexual intercourse.
Yes, and I like the fact that we're going to talk about that you linked sexual promiscuity to the idea that people, your judgment is smeared, it's hampered, you're not coordinated, and one of the things that I can say is, for example, males, as men, when men drink alcohol, you're more easily aroused too. That's right. And so you find men, you drink alcohol and you just want your thing, and to be real, and you as a female, if you're not strong, you meet this stranger, he's winding up on you at the Creole Festival, and he's all aroused, and you're not strong-headed, and you don't have barriers, you don't have boundaries within yourself to say, well, listen, I thought we were just dancing, what's happening here? I'm not going down this road with you. So talk a little about what encouragement would you give to our people, particularly our young people, who might be exposed to the temptations and may not have the know-how or the strategy how to actually say no, or how to protect themselves, or how to resist the mere temptation?
That's an interesting question, because I think that we all need to have responsibility for our health and for our own sexual health. To not have the ability to resist temptation means that you are not empowered. And as a young person, you need to ensure that you are able to decide what happens with your body. If you are tempted to have sex with somebody that you do not feel that you should have, it would be better to run away, to abstain. Call somebody who you know will try and help you get out of that situation. Or a lot of times we find that women are abused and they do not see it as abuse because it is somebody that they know, and they do not want that particular sexual encounter, but because of who it is, they do not report it as abuse. But it is abuse. If you do not want to have sex with somebody, you are under no obligation to do it.
And I think this one of the things that I mean, I'm sure you can attest to that. Many times, especially, I mean, I'm trying to be as real as possible. We look at people's faces and physique, and we think, well, here goes a healthy person.
Exactly.
Here goes a hot-looking chick. Here goes this honky guy, because he came from the States and he's wearing gold and he has the latest outfits and he smells good, and we run for those things. But really and truly, you really don't know the person's history. You really,
Yeah, and not only that, a lot of the STIs do not have any signs and symptoms. So the person could be carrying something and pass it on to you, and you do not know. And the problem is that after you've been infected and that person goes back to the States, you can't track where you got it from. Exactly.
And we've seen, I mean, for example, cervical cancer, one of the main culprits is the HPV virus, and we're seeing cases of that, propping up, and that only shows that even some of the STIs are linked to certain cancers.
Exactly.
And so we have to be even more, conscious about how we preserve ourselves, against, exposure to those viruses and bacteria. There are some, like, for example, genital herpes has no cure. We want people to know that. Genital herpes has no cure. Human papillomavirus has no cure. HIV, again, has no cure. And so there are some that has absolutely no cure. So you want to know, syphilis can actually give you a carditis, inflammation of your heart, so some of them it's not merely just about affecting your genitalia or your sexual organ, but they can also cause problems for certain vital organs in the body.
And syphilis also, in the long term effects, it affects the brain. So you could end up having dementia in your older age. Right, so we need to be cognizant of the long-term effects of all of these STIs and to protect ourselves. One of the funny things that we have here, we talk about carnival babies when they're born. So it shows that our people are actually having unprotected sex during these festive times. We have the Christmas babies and the carnival babies that we always speak about. Right, so we need to really, this festive season, to be very careful. The HIV unit will be having outreach programs at the Creole in the Park and at the Creole Festival. So we will be having a booth where we will be distributing condoms to persons who want to ensure that they have protection. And we're not saying that you're going to have sex, but we are there if you need it. So you can find our booth at the Creole in the Park or at the Creole Festival.
And I think that's a good initiative too. I think it makes no sense to be ignorant of the fact and say, well, you by giving condoms you're promoting sex. I mean, some people interpret it as that, but I think precaution is really truly better than cure.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, too, I know Malcolm. At the end of the day, it becomes a national crisis.
Exactly.
When people, you have a huge spike in STIs on the island,
Right, because
and so
because they need treatment, and that takes from our resources.
Right.
We have to pay for the medication, and the government has to invest in that. So it's better to stop it before it starts. Okay?
Right.
Sure.
Right. Malcolm, you're going to say something?
Yeah, just to jump on this, as she said rightly, that there is a greater potential for risky behavior around those times. So the people who tend to think that it is wrong or unethical to be distributing condoms, I once held that thought. But when we look at it, it's really a harm reduction measure, and that is very, very important. So, that is something we definitely encourage. Yeah.
But one of the things that I wanted to pitch to Ms. Glenville, I mean, you can pitch into. I mean, I have had people of the notion that even the way that, we dance, the gyration, the sexual explicities of our expressions with dance, that in itself permeates. So it creates that milieu, that environment for sexual promiscuity. What's your take on that?
Of course it does, because if a woman is whining her bottom on a man's penis, he's going to get erect.
But of course.
And then what happens after that? He's going to want to have sexual intercourse, and because of that closeness already, they're both already getting aroused. So all of that helps with this.
So there seem to be some, education that has to be permeated out there in terms of, how do we conduct ourselves as young adults, as older adults, when we go out there, how do we showcase our bodies, in terms of expressions.
Exactly. The dressings of the young women, they dress in a manner that encourages the young men to want to have sex.
True.
When your body is all exposed, men, when they see things, they
visualize.
They're not like the women who you have to touch to get aroused. They, from the time that they see, they get aroused, so they will try.
So your concern, your concern during this festive season is what? Your major concern?
My major concern is the fact that persons will be inebriated. We have a lot of alcohol use during the festive season, and as a result of that, they may be prone to risky behaviors, because their inhibitions are reduced. And so we would like persons to ensure that they use a condom every time they're having sex during this festive season, and to seek assistance from us at the Creole Festival or at the Creole in the Park, so that they can get protection for.
All right. So you said use of condom, but I'm going to ask you a question quickly. You find sometimes people, guy goes into his car, he takes out his condom from his pocket, he takes his teeth, and he opens the condom in the dark car, and he puts it on.
Right, that is one of our concerns too, about using the condoms correctly, because even the storage of the condoms can cause it to break.
Okay.
If it is stored in the glove compartment of the car, all of the heat is going to cause it to break. Also, you'd have to look at the expiry date. A lot of times they are there for several years before they are used, and it may have been expired. So you need to ensure that it is not expired before you use it. Using your teeth also can break the condom. You can cause it to have a tear or a hole, so whenever you put it on, using it is like not using anything at all. So you have to ensure that you open along the jagged edge and ensure that it is intact. So one of the things that we teach persons is to feel, to see whether the condom has air in the packet, because if you feel air in there, it means that it is good. If it feels flat, then it is either expired or it has a puncture in the condom. So you need to ensure also when the man is putting on the condom that there is enough space for the semen, because a lot of times you find that the men pull it all the way down and it's flat on the head of the penis, so there's not enough space. So whenever through rough sex or something, it could break. But if you leave enough space so that it would be able to move and also to collect the semen, then you wouldn't have that risk of breaking of the condom.
Good points.
Right. And also, when removing the condom, we need to ensure that we dispose of it safely, because having sex in your car doesn't mean that you just remove the condom and throw it on the ground. Somebody else could come and get in contact with that soon after you've left. And also, the man touching the outside of the condom could put him in contact with the woman's vaginal fluids, which is what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent you from getting in contact with the semen or the vaginal fluids. So you need to ensure that you use a tissue to remove it and wrap it and throw it away safely, to protect yourself and to protect other persons.
Good. So in a sense, what we're saying is that I think it is best to put on your lights if you're in your vehicle and do all of that, because really and truly,
stop doing it in the dark.
Right, you in this dark vehicle parked under some tree by a beach. You really don't know what's happening. You're using your judgment to say, well, you're doing it the right way, but you might really be compromising your own health by, So if it means that you take your flashlight from your phone and you let, somebody, you watch what you're doing to ensure that everything is safe before actually using.
And one of the things that you're talking about looking to ensure that everything is safe. I remember at a session that we were showing the genital warts on the head of the man's penis, and it was looking so ugly. And this young lady is saying, would a woman allow a man to have sex with her with that? But in these dark areas, you're not seeing any of this. True. You're not seeing whatever the person has. So to be able to assess everything, you cannot do that. So you have to ensure that you practice safer sex.
Inspection time.
Exactly.
Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
I know that you're very passionate about drug abuse. I know during this festive season, we've seen smaller packages of alcohol being sold now. You can just slip it in your pocket and just go and buy a chaser, or just during that time we see lots of alcohol all over the place being sold. Young children, young school, I've seen it, young school people are indulging drinking alcohol like it's what advice do you have, particularly for the vendors, for the show promoters? What advice would you say to them from the government standpoint, representing the National Drug Abuse Prevention Unit?
Okay. So we know for a fact that, for example, alcohol is a mind-altering substance. That's clear. Yes, it lowers inhibitions, breaking away or reducing the constraints that people have. So one of the things we need to recognize is people are more prone to violence. So we need to tie that in as well. And of course, the issue of unprotected sex. So we're just highlighting some of the emphasizing
and motor vehicle accidents too.
Right. So we come into that. Then there's impaired judgment, right? Where alcohol affects somebody's information processing that has implications for driving. Coordination, hand and eye coordination, so cognitive ability, psychomotor ability, all of these things are compromised because of drinking. So we're putting that out there. Inappropriate behavior, we've seen that. People exposing themselves, gyrating, what we call being so very suggestive. So you don't have to say, I want to have sex with you in words. The way that you dress, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you whine, you know that the next course of action is to find a place to get involved, all right? So inappropriate behavior. Diminishing the senses. Okay, so that has some implication for driving in terms of sight. But what about desensitizing the man in terms of, because of the sexual activity and the diminished senses, that the man feels, this condom thing now is a waste of time, because I'm not really feeling, I'm not getting too much time, but I'm not really getting the pleasure out of this. So let me go bareback. You understand what is happening there, and of course the potential for risky behavior. So when we have all of this in mind, then our shopkeepers should know that they have a responsibility. And sometimes we have to take action for other people. Yes, everybody has a responsibility, but if somebody is on drugs, they are compromised, they're not able to think clearly. So sometimes we have to think for other people, sometimes we have to drive for other people. So for example, if we have a group, there must be a designated driver who will not touch alcohol, and everybody will see to it that this man or woman does not drink for the time that they have to be driving, or even before. So you're driving us for the season, my friend, just know that you're out of drugs, because our lives are at risk and too many things are at risk. Even in the situation where people feel so sexual during those times, one of the things I would advise is to get an accountability partner. So there's somebody who in your group who is not so negatively impacted by alcohol, who always seems to have their head well screwed on. Then you need to assign that person to yourself and say, you know what, I know where you stand on this, and you know I am weak when it comes to drinking and I want to have sex. I want you to be on my track. Follow me, because I don't want to do anything that I would have to regret. And we have friends we can trust. So it is good to get an accountability partner. We also saying to our shopkeepers, do not sell alcohol to a minor, somebody below the age of 18. Now, that is one of the other issues is that one of the things that we have seen is that we have gaps in our legislation. For example, there's a legal buying age, but there's not a quote-unquote legal drinking age. So even if there's nothing in the law per se that says about drinking, but we can be each other's keeper. And because we know that you're a young man, you're a child, and you're not supposed to be doing this, we need to go back to it takes a village to raise a child. All right, so we have to be vigilant, we have to look out for each other. And another thing that we want to see, and it's in the laws, that it is against the law to sell alcohol or any illegal drug to somebody who's already drunk. All right, so our shopkeepers or bartenders, if the man comes to the counter and he can barely get the money out of his pocket, you see him staggering to you, he can hardly talk, he already has slurred speech, then you need to tell him, hey sir, it's time to go home, or you have had enough, or I am not going to sell to you. Yes, you'll feel they'll insult you, they will curse you, but at the end of the day, the cost of that action that you would have taken is too great, you know, compared to the little insult that you get and the little cursing. You understand? So we have to be really look out for each other, and you know, we have to try to follow the laws and just to be on the safe side. We also do need to talk about I know we're out of time, but there's an impact on the pregnant woman. Sometimes we free up because it's festive time and it comes once a year. I'm pregnant, but the baby is small still, so I'll have a drink. There's something called fetal alcohol syndrome, where a person, so not necessarily a baby, a person whose mother had drunk will be affected later on in life. All right, there are facial features and all of those things. There's the issue of stillbirth. There's the issue of deformity, and all of those things. So we know we have to understand that the actions we take do not just affect us, but so many players will be affected and impacted, and negatively so, by our actions. So we're just asking people to be very responsible. Show promoters and so forth, be very, very responsible. It's not just about making money, it's about living, what memory, what legacy, what do we offer to people? It's not about just taking. What do we give back? Help people maintain their pride and their dignity in all of this festivity. So this is just what we're encouraging.
Well said, Malcolm. I know we're really running out of time. I truly want to thank my two guests, Nurse Fiona Glenville, who came from the National AIDS Response Program Unit, and Mr. Malcolm Sendros from the National Drug Abuse Prevention Unit. Truly appreciated your presence today.
Anytime, sir.
And the information was very relevant, particularly for this time of year. Again, I'm your host, Carlton, saying go out, do something productive, and take ownership of your actions.
Good.
See you next time with Pearl Fountain. Bye-bye.
Good.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website, www.jollys.dm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollys.dm and have your items